And so when we first wanted to get started on this, he's like, well, what papers have been done on it? What studies have been done? And we're like, well, there's been about 350. Most of them are in Russian. He's like, okay, translate all the studies and send them to me. He called us about 2 weeks later. He said, okay, go to Alaska, get me 50 pounds, come to Hawaii, and we'll figure it out. And so that's what we did. And we went down to Hawaii. We worked at his lab. Then I was the guinea pig who tasted it for the first time when we were done. I drank it and I was like, oh my God, it's sweet. It tastes like maple syrup. I was ready for it to taste awful.
Hey gang, so today my guest is Tulsy Ball. He's a storyteller, a chemist, and a botanist. His focus on storytelling led him to produce over 400 hours of network television, including Bering Sea Gold, show you might remember, for the Discovery Channel. And in 2014, while working on a documentary project in Alaska, he and his brother learned about the incredible benefits of chaga mushrooms, which were helpful for their sister, who was battling breast cancer at the time. So it was very serendipitous that they discovered this while his sister, or right around the time when his sister was diagnosed and going through treatment. And that experience and that research led him to found a company called Chagit, which is a chaga and medicinal mushroom supplement company. I've consumed these products. I think they're fantastic. And I wanted to have Tulsy on to tell his story and talk about medicinal mushrooms. And because there's a lot to learn. And I think you'll be fascinated not only by his story, but by what he has learned. And so Tulsy, thanks for taking the time to do this. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you too, Chris. Thanks very much for having me on and for taking the time yourself, giving us the opportunity to share a little bit of what I've learned about mushrooms over the course of the last decade with everybody you know.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been fascinated by mushrooms for a long time, and obviously they were a part of my anti-cancer diet. I still consume a lot of mushrooms today. They're an important part of my life. And so I appreciate the work you're doing. And obviously you and I have talked before. And so I'm excited to dig in to some of the things that you and I have talked about offline, off camera. But before we do, I'd love for you to tell your story, because it's fascinating to me how you got into filmmaking and some of the things you worked on with Discovery. How did all that happen?
So it actually, it kind of came to me in college. I was studying. I was in second year of college, and I actually got cast in a TV show. And at random, I ended up doing one episode of a show called My So-Called Life back in 1992. And
yes, and of course I remember that show. That was like my era. And my wife was a big fan of that show. It was Claire Danes, right? That was her big break.
It was Claire Danes. I was Claire Danes' first kiss on the show and in real life. So that was like, it was one of those where like, oh my God, I got cast in the show. Now I don't need to go to college. I can just, go off and, be a TV movie star. And, of course, I was rudely disabused of that notion in terms of the difficulty of being an actor in Hollywood. But also I discovered what was really, became my love, which was telling stories. And so, I moved behind the camera after a few years and started, writing and then producing shows. Did a few things in the scripted world, but really found my way when my brother and I started working together and doing shows in unscripted television. So we did documentary shows for Discovery Channel, History Channel, many other different networks, and been fortunate enough to start our own company, sell several shows. So one of the biggest shows we did, probably our greatest success in that career was we were involved in the creation of a show called Bering Sea Gold, and that's on Discovery Channel, has been for 13 years. And it is the anchor of Friday nights on that network. And it gave us a great presence in Alaska. It's set in Nome, Alaska. And so the network was always looking for new shows in Alaska. And we had heard about the natives that were hunting this crazy mushroom out in the woods during the winter and selling it for use in cosmetic products in Asia, in Japan and Korea. So we started developing a show about them, subsistence, lifestyle, foraging. It had all the great elements. And in the process, we started, learning about the mushroom that they harvested, which they believe was a gift from the Great Spirit. They have a 7,000-year history of using it as their root medicine. They believe that the Great Spirit was sitting in heaven and eating a piece of mammoth, and instead of finishing it, he threw it down to earth, and it came down in a blaze and landed on the birch trees and was their root medicine, their gift from him so that they could survive the winter. Obviously, living in a bitter, cold place where there are not that many botanical herbs and other natural healing substances that are growing. You basically have, in the far north of Alaska, the Arctic Circle, there's boreal forest, and you'll get some berries and some other things during the summer, but the winter is long, and it's freezing, and there's nothing around. And the chaga helped them survive. So, we started developing a show about it, and it was about the same time that our sister was diagnosed with double breast cancer, and our research into the mushroom for the show showed us that that it was used, and certain compounds of it were used to make pharmaceutical grade medicine in other countries that was used for breast cancer. Specifically, in Russia, there's a drug that they call betulinin, which is made from betulinic acid in the mushroom that's used for treating breast cancer in Russia. So we thought, well, we've got a source of mushrooms with the natives that we're working with. We might as well, give that to her. She was getting ready to do surgery for it, but we figured, we got something that can help and be a palliative and help her with the process, and it did. It was very beneficial for her. It was also beneficial for me because I was dealing with some problems with my liver, and it helped me reduce the liver pain and increase the the functionality of my liver. So,
what do you think caused your liver issues?
To be perfectly honest, I had a long-term drinking problem, and thanks to my Lord and Savior, I no longer have that problem. I am sober now, but I worked 18-hour days making television, and the only way that I knew how to get to sleep was to drink 2 or 3 tall whiskeys and crash out in a hotel bed. And that became a daily habit for me, and it almost destroyed my life. And I am incredibly fortunate that God helped remove that disease from me, because addiction to alcohol is a disease as well, and it almost killed me. At that point, the age of 43, my liver was at 40% function, and my doctors told me I wouldn't live to see 50.
Wow.
And I with the help of the mushroom and a little bit of prayer and certainly dialing back on the alcohol, I know played a big part of it. My liver's back to perfect function. It works perfectly today. So that's a big part of the reason why, I went all in on this company. We realized that the mushroom was the star, and that we had access to it because we knew all the harvesters in Alaska, to be able to build a supply chain that had the highest potency and purity available anywhere in the world. We've done tests to confirm that the chaga from Alaska is the highest quality anywhere on the planet, in terms of the compounds in it that are the most beneficial for healing, and that have shown the most promise for developing future, possibly pharmaceutical drugs from the mushroom. And so we started a company to be able to deliver the the highest quality extractions to people, do it for an affordable price, and in a way that was really, really easy for them to use. So we came up with our main product, which is it's chaga mushroom juice. Essentially, we are the only mushroom juice company in the world. We use a proprietary 5-step process to create this. It is a sweet liquid extract. There's 0 sugar in it, so it is safe for people who don't want sugar in their diet. And it makes it really easy to get your daily chaga. All you do is you take this and you squeeze a little bit in your water or whatever else it is that you happen to be drinking, coffee, tea, smoothies, and there's your chaga for the day. It took us about 4.5 years to get through the FDA and the Department of Public Health, because they're like, you're doing what? And what's your process? And has anybody ever done this before? And how do you know it's safe? And what do you mean you don't use a kill step? You don't pasteurize this? How do you know it's safe? And so
we'll talk about that. I'd love for you to share some of the details that you told me about, the development process and the hurdles and the testing and the stuff that you had to do, because it really does matter. I think people would be interested to know how much went into bringing this to market. It's not just like, hey, let's pick some mushrooms and then just put them on the internet for sale.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we realized is that a lot of the products out there are powder, and powder is from my history with being a chemistry student at school before I got out of there, was that powder always, an extraction from a botanical always starts out as a liquid extraction. You have to use a combination of solvents, polar and non-polar, in order to get the compounds from the dried raw material that you're using. And then if you want a powder, you then have to re-dry the liquid solvent. And what that means is that you have to apply heat or an extreme amount of pressure for freeze drying. But nonetheless, you have to apply an additional process. And in that additional process, potency is lost. There's no question about it. It's just literally chemical. That's a chemical reality. If you add an additional process, you're going to lose potency. And our research showed that the most beneficial compounds in the chaga mushroom and in other functional mushrooms, which are non-polar, they're essentially terpenoids, triterpenoids. They're fatty acids. They require a non-polar solvent like ethanol or an oil, or which we use is glycerin of coconut origin, in order to remove them from the raw material. But if you go over 105 degrees, they start degrading. They start deteriorating. So, for most people who are doing an extraction, and most of the products out there, if you take it up to what is your standard sterility level, which is 215 degrees boiling, then you're going to kill everything in it. So we were like, well, we need to make a product that is non-pasteurized, that is not sterilized. So how are we going to control anything that might have come along for the ride and anything that's wrong with, with the process? And the Department of Public Health was like, well, how are you doing it? And what we realized in our journey with them was that if we could control the pH of the chaga, of the extraction, then the mushroom itself has antibacterial properties which kill all of the pathogens. So we did a challenge study with UC Davis with their microbiological lab, which was monitored by the Department of Public Health on behalf of the FDA. And it took us hundreds of thousands of dollars. And basically over the course of a year, we proved that our extraction was capable of killing E. coli in 7 days. It killed salmonella in 9 days. It killed botulism in 10 days. And the hardest one to kill, as most people in the food business will tell you, is Listeria monocytogenes. And we killed Listeria in 14 days. And that was with a colony of 370 million Listeria in a 2-ounce shot of our product, and we killed it in 14 days. So at that point, we've proven our ability to deliver a safe product. And so that's why part of our protocol is that once we complete a batch, we have to keep it in quarantine and on hold for 14 days prior to bottling and distribution, because that's what our step is instead of pasteurization or sterilization.
That's really pretty amazing that the antimicrobial activity is so strong in chaga. Yeah, that kind of blows my mind, really. I love it. And so why did you decide to do liquid versus just, let's say, grinding the mushrooms into a powder and selling a powder?
Well, so there are some mushrooms and, other functional mushrooms that can be digested in a raw powdered form. Lion's mane is one of them. You can eat lion's mane and your body will digest it. Cordyceps, the same. Chaga, however, is indigestible to our systems. If you eat raw chaga, this is a chaga mushroom. If you take this and grind it down and you eat it, it's going to lodge in your digestive system. It's going to end up in your kidneys and you'll get kidney stone.
So how did the native people prepare it and consume it in Alaska?
So we were fortunate enough to meet with a native elder. Part of our harvest network up there is a woman she's a tribal elder of the Chagit tribe, or it's more a confederation of tribes, because each village is their own little tribe, but they're part of a nation. So she's part of Chagit Nation, and she shared with us some of the secrets for how they extract. And they do 5 different types of extraction for different purposes. So they make a tea. Their first use with it is that they'll make a tea, and that tea is used for energy and for additional immune boosting properties while the men are on the hunt. That's essentially their energy tea. And so that, if you understand, that's specifically focusing on the carbohydrates because it's just water. They make I've tried it, and I've tried it only once, and I will never do it again. They're incredibly brave. I don't know how they do it, but they make a fermented lipid extraction, which accomplishes the separation of the polar solvents. But the way they do it is they take seal blubber, they take raw seal blubber, they throw it in a bucket, they add the little chunks of chaga in there, and then they let it ferment at room temperature for 6 months in the corner of their dwelling. And then after 6 months,
oh man, I bet that is so funky.
It's one of the worst smelling and tasting things I've ever had in my entire life. But it's what they use to avoid cancer because it has the lipid extracts in it. So that's what they've always used to deal with not only internal and digestive issues, but as well as for skin. They'll take that and just rub that directly on the skin if they get discolorations or what they believed prior to modern medicine coming along and telling them what a melanoma or squamous cell carcinoma was. This just, it's a weird spot, rub chaga oil on it. And they also make a soap / shampoo out of it that they use for their hair, by making a burnt charcoal base from the chaga and mixing that with the oil to essentially make a soapy conditioner. And then they'll take some of the smaller chunks as well that have already been processed into tea and broken down, and they'll sieve that off and use those to add to their dog food, which helps the dogs have larger litters and healthier weight.
So how does chaga compare to other mushrooms?
So we've been involved in a study with a few doctors out of Texas. The lead doctor was Dr. Stephen Barnhill, and Dr. Herb Fritsch was his secondary on the study. And we tested 10 different mushroom extractions against 10 different cancer cell lines in vitro. And so our chaga extract, as well as reishi triterpenes and most of the other well-known mushrooms like turkey tail, shiitake, maitake, and tested those 10 in a grid against the 10 types of cancer. And what we found in that test was that chaga was the most effective against 6 of the 10 cancer cell lines, and was additionally effective against 2 others. So it works against 8 of the 10 types of cancer cells that they tested it against. But what was more effective against 2 of them was reishi. And so the reishi mushroom was more effective against 2 types of cancer, and that specifically, both of those were cancers that are more specific to women. One of them being uterine, and the other being a HER2 positive breast cancer. So, but chaga had some effectiveness against those. Reishi just beat it out. There was no other mushroom that was more effective against any of the others except for one, and that was turkey tail versus lung cancer.
It's really interesting, yeah, how different mushrooms seem to be targeting different cancer types. And you also produce some other mushroom extracts, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's why we have a 6 mushroom blend, which takes the top 6 that have ever been found and used in testing. So it includes the turkey tail, it includes reishi, it includes lion's mane, which in the tests did not show a lot of effect versus cancers, but has been shown in multiple tests to be beneficial for cognitive function and for helping fight against Alzheimer's and dementia, and for improving nerve growth factor after traumatic brain injuries. Includes maitake, which is great for blood conditions and for overall immunity, and cordyceps, which also did have some benefit against cardiovascular conditions, and had somewhat benefit versus lung cancer, just not as strong as turkey tail. So we look at that kind of as the Swiss Army knife of extractions. It's 50% chaga, and then we add in all the others because, like, frankly, it's the Avengers. If you're fighting cancer, you want to throw the kitchen sink at it. You want to get everything you can. We're not saying that what we've created is going to do something, but it sure can't hurt.
I'm cautious to promote anything as a miracle cure, because what I've found is very few things out there are miracle cures. But of all the people I've interviewed who've healed cancer against the odds, the common thread is that they overdosed on nutrition. So they supply their body with a wide array of raw materials from nature that their body could use to repair and regenerate, heal. And some of these compounds actively target cancer. And we find these compounds in mushrooms. We find them in cruciferous vegetables and berries. Almost every herb, every spice has some anti-cancer activity. And so, flooding your body with these nutrients is just a good thing, right? It's just a good thing. And so that's what we encourage folks to do, is just to stop eating a diet of man-made food, which is predominantly processed food, fast food, junk food, a diet that's really high in meat and dairy. Break your bad habits like smoking and alcohol that are health destroyers, right? Be mindful that prescription drugs can also promote all kinds of chronic diseases and cancers. They tell you right at the end of the commercial, folks, if you pay attention, a lot of the risks of chronic diseases are worse than whatever you're taking the drug to treat. And so, understanding all that, a person can really take massive steps, massive action to transform their life, and just by changing their daily routine. And that is, again, what you're eating. It starts with what you're eating, but also how you think about life, how you think about others, how you treat others and treat yourself, your relationship with God, trusting Him with your life and your health and your future, forgiving people who've hurt you, all of them, right? So it's a comprehensive approach. And, but I love, again, I've taken more mushrooms. I've consumed more mushrooms and mushroom products than I could ever account for. And I really do love the Chagit products because they're so unique. And I was surprised at the taste, at the sweetness, the natural sweetness of mushroom juice, mushroom extract. It's not quite a juice. It's more of almost like a syrup, right? It's kind of syrupy. It's a little thicker than what you would consider a juice to be, but I know you call it juice. But yeah, it has this delicious natural sweetness to it, and it's easy to mix into a fruit juice or to water, or you put it in a smoothie or whatever. Yeah, very easy to consume.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, that was the flavor wasn't something we were necessarily going for. We, we worked with a friend of mine who's got a PhD in biochem at UCLA. He actually finished his college, and he is a certified extraction genius. And his name's Dr. Watkins. And we worked with him on the extraction process. And we were really, more than anything, targeting potency. We just wanted to get absolutely everything out of it that we possibly could. And he's got a lab in Hawaii. And so when we first wanted to, to get started on this, he's like, well, what papers have been done on it? What studies have been done? And we're like, well, there's been about 350. Most of them are in Russian. He's like, okay, translate all the studies and send them to me. So we spent about $4,000 translating those studies from Russian and sent them to him. And he called us about 2 weeks later. He said, okay, go to Alaska, get me 50 pounds, come to Hawaii, and we'll figure it out. And so that's what we did. And we went down to Hawaii. We worked at his lab. And then I was the guinea pig who tasted it for the first time when we were done. And so I drank it, and I was like, oh my God, it's sweet. It tastes like maple syrup. And I went out and I danced a jig around the pool because I was like, this is amazing, because I was ready for it to taste awful. And I didn't care. I mean, I keep in mind that I had tasted, Eskimo seal oil at that point. So I was like, I was prepared for the worst.
Right. I could see myself in that situation being like, okay, this is probably going to be pretty funky, but let's give it a taste.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's exactly what it was. But so I was very, very pleased that it does. It tastes great. It tastes, like a maple syrup or a vanilla syrup somewhere in there. It does have its own unique flavor. And we've done more analysis on why that is, what's happening in the chemical process of the chaga that gives it that flavor. But pretty remarkable. And going back to the pharmaceutical side of things, because you did mention it. I'm sure that most of your listeners know, but it's worth repeating that every single pharmaceutical drug that we have started out as a botanical compound. Aspirin was willow bark tea. 45% of the medicines that we have come from kingdom fungi. They're a fungi of one kind or another. They're a mushroom. The rest are started out from plants and or bacteria. That's everything. Most of our antibiotics started out as a bacteria, penicillin, amoxicillin. So, that is the source. Nature is the source of every single pharmaceutical that we have. God gave it to us first. The problem is that the pharmaceutical industry, in the effort to create something patentable that they could make hundreds of billions of dollars off of, have taken that natural botanical compound. They've tried to synthesize it utilizing a petroleum base, isolated it from the other compounds in the natural botanical from which it was found, and then delivered it in a new form, which they had to find some way to create a extended half-life for. So you're essentially not getting a human, you're getting Frankenstein. And the problem is, when Dr. Frankenstein creates Frankenstein, Frankenstein goes crazy and it starts breaking the lab. And that's basically what happens with a pharmaceutical. There are plenty of great pharmaceuticals out there, but if you keep taking them, sooner or later, they're going to go Frankenstein in your lab. And that's kind of generally what the story is with them. There's benefit to everything that has been done, but unfortunately it's been twisted, it's been modified, and it's no longer what it started out as. And so that's what we're trying to do, is just deliver the best of what we found as the most potent superfoods out there.
That's a great analogy. And I think it's important to point out, and I know a lot of my audience knows this, but there's very little money to be made. Of course, you can make some money, but you can't make billions of dollars, which is what pharmaceutical companies want to do with every new drug. You can't make billions of dollars off a natural compound, right? You can't make billions of dollars just off, mushroom juice, right? You can't make billions of dollars off of, an extract from green tea or garlic. It has to be monkeyed with in a lab, has to be, like you said, synthesized, or they have to figure out a way to change the molecular structure slightly in order to increase the potency. So there's all these different processes that are involved in developing pharmaceuticals. But at the end of the day, right, they change from a natural compound to sort of an unnatural compound. And even though I'm with you, there are an almost incalculable number of pharmaceuticals on the market right now, and many of them have some benefit, but long term, most of them do cause harm if you continue to take them. And so the short term benefit can be wonderful. Most pharmaceuticals, unfortunately, depending on what they're used to treat or what condition they're used to treat, are not curative. They will mitigate symptoms. They'll make you feel better, better than you did, but never 100%, and lead to a lifetime of dependence, which is really what the pharmaceutical industry wants. They want lifetime customers. They don't want miracle cures, right? Miracle cures make a lot less money, right? Like, one pill to fix your problem, that makes a lot less money than taking a pill every day for the rest of your life. That's what they want to do. And without going on too much of a rabbit trail here, the other thing that they like to do is as soon as a patent wears out on a drug, they've got a brand new one to replace it with, even if that current drug was really good. Even if it was really good and effective and helpful, they will immediately stop promoting it. They'll stop marketing it to doctors. They'll stop advertising it, and they'll replace it with some new thing that they now have a patent on, and start pushing that to patients through television ads and to doctors. And so a lot of useful drugs have essentially been almost abandoned because their patents ran out, and now they're available generically and they're much cheaper. And we saw that during 2020. I won't bring up any names of drugs, off-label drugs that turned out to be very helpful and were very cheap and were ignored and banned. But many of you know which ones I'm talking about. So, but for any new listeners, it's just important to understand that industry and how it works, and understand that, like you said, I'm really just trying to hammer your point down, is that there are so many incredible beneficial compounds that just come directly from nature. And we've been conditioned to think, oh, nothing natural, right? Nothing natural is going to help me. I need a real drug, right, to help me. And it's just not true.
It's not. And that's conditioning that's been built up over the course of the last, 70, 80 years, maybe even close to 100 years since the curriculum in medical universities in this country was changed. And doctors today don't study nutrition as a part of their standard education. And I think it's kind of a tragedy, because if you go back and look at the original Hippocratic discipline, is let food be thy medicine, and it's actually pretty cool that chaga is in the original Hippocratic text.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, it is there. It was being used that far back.
Yeah, and doctors are trained in three things, right? They study human anatomy, and then they study drugs for diseases, and then they study procedures for conditions like surgery or repairing a broken bone, that kind of thing. And that's it. Yeah, like you said, there's no diet and lifestyle education. And so they come out of med school and go through residency and all this training, years and years of study and training, with no knowledge on basic health, on how to be healthy themselves, how to help their patients restore their health. They really don't know. They're just as clueless as the guy sitting next to him on the subway, right? They really don't know. And I've interacted with so many doctors, and incredible ones, brilliant researchers who've taken upon themselves. I've interviewed, a number of them, to learn, right, to teach themselves through the medical literature, through research, through science, how to help their patients restore their health. And most of that, in most of those cases, it's without drugs at all. It's by changing your diet and lifestyle and managing your stress. These simple things. And I've also interacted with many doctors who are incredibly unhealthy people, right? They're on a handful of pharmaceuticals. They have drink alcohol and drug problems and smoke cigarettes and are overweight. It's like, it's wild. It's wild when you kind of have this eye-opening moment. I don't know if I've ever told this story publicly, but I had a moment in a doctor's office where, and I can't even remember what, I was just in there for some routine, something routine, and I can't remember what it was, blood work or something, but a nurse practitioner came in to chat with me, and she, a pill box fell out of her lab coat. So she was shuffling around or something, and popped open, and this, like 12 pills came out of this pill box, and most of them were different colors. And I regret not doing this, because I had a moment, but I regret not whipping out my phone really quick and taking a picture, because she wasn't looking at me. She was bent over trying to pick up all these little pills that have fallen out of her personal pill box. And I just remember thinking, man, you're taking all of those? Like, wow. And I don't know enough about pharmaceuticals to recognize which pills are which. If I had taken a picture, someone probably could have told me every pill this lady was on. But anyway, that was just one little eye-opening example, one little peek, into the reality of the lives of many medical practitioners. They're not healthy, and so you can't expect someone who is not healthy themselves to lead you in the path of health.
Yeah, no, it's 100% the case. And I think it's, it is really, for not to go down a rabbit hole with it, but if you look back at the 1950s and 1960s, there was a belief that you were literally better life through science, that they were going to create a drug to solve every single problem. And that became that's the mother's little helper, generation. And we're starting to learn better that they had gone too far that direction. There's without question that if I get in a car accident or something happens and I am, I'm dealing with some kind of a trauma, the first person that I want in my life is a doctor in the ER. There's no doubt about that. The advances made by modern medicine when it comes to procedures, when it comes to handling trauma, when it comes to surgical activity, is light years ahead of where we were 150 years ago. However, natural medicine definitely had some things right that have been lost. And that comes down specifically to diet, nutrition, way of life, meditation, connection with God, all of the things that frankly make us happier. If you have those things in your life, you're going to be a happier person. So, regardless of what's going on with us in our lives, and certainly if you're dealing with cancer, you're dealing with one of the hardest aspects of life that you possibly can. You owe it to yourself to try to find a way to be as happy as possible, because life is not easy. We were never promised that. That's not what we're at. We're on this planet. It's not going to be easy. And we want to try and be as close to God and to happiness and to living in that peaceful place as we possibly can.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm also appreciative that there are people out there like yourself who are not only learning, but then taking what you've learned, what you've discovered, bringing it to the market, bringing something unique to the market and helpful to the market, and just sort of growing the, to use the word I've already used twice, marketplace, of healthy, naturally derived products that we can take and supplement with to add unique, beneficial antimicrobial, anti-cancer compounds to our bodies, right? If you don't put it in there, it's not going to help you, right? If there's a chance it can help, this is what I tell people all the time. If there's a chance it can help, give it a chance, right? Put it in your body. If it's helpful, it will help you. And in most cases, the vast majority of cases, when you're taking a naturally derived compound, the risk of harm is approaching zero, which is not the case with pharmaceuticals, right? Most of them cause harm, usually over some period of time of use. And I'm with you too. I'm very thankful for modern medicine. It's never been better. Emergency care, trauma care, it's never been better. Orthopedics have never been better. I mean, we really have made these just unbelievably remarkable advances in modern medicine. But I think where people they intermingle the two divisions of medicine, which is there's acute trauma care, hospital life-saving medicine, whether it's a bacterial infection that's threatening to kill you, or a gunshot wound, or you're in a car wreck, right? That medicine, which is amazing. And the other side of medicine, which is the treatment of chronic disease. And that's where, frankly, the majority of money is made. And that's why we have, I think I was reading yesterday, the average American, or 66% of Americans are taking at least one pharmaceutical. And so that is the side of medicine where, sure, they've made lots of advances in drug development, but most of these drugs are not curing people. And so they're just signing up for a lifetime of drug use. And that one pill always turns into 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 12 over the course of time, because new conditions develop from one, not changing their lifestyle, right? Because people continue down this lifestyle that degrades their health, so they develop more health problems. And 2, problems develop that are directly caused by the pharmaceutical they're taking for problem number 1. So then they have a new drug for problem number 2, and then another drug for problem 3. And so they're taking drugs caused by the side effects of drugs for the side effects of drugs, Yeah. And then it's really sad, because I know people, I've encountered, interacted with a lot of people that are in this sort of vicious cycle of drug dependency, and they're on so many and they don't know which ones to get off of, and they're scared to stop taking them. And of course, I can't tell them to stop taking them because that's medical advice, right? But we've seen remarkable things happen in our community where someone takes control of their life and their health, and in doing so, as they're working with their doctor, they see all these wonderful conditions improve. And over a course of, a few months or a year or a few years, depending on the person and the situation, people can get off most pharmaceutical drugs by changing their diet and lifestyle, and with their doctor's permission. And so that's the best case scenario right there, where your doctor says, well, you know what, your blood sugar is normal now. I'm not sure you need to take this anymore, or your cholesterol's lower now than it was, on this medicine. It's way lower. You may not need this anymore, and your blood pressure is normal now, and let's dial this back. So anyway, great things happen when you take care of your life and your health, and you really supply your body with useful, safe raw materials from nature.
Yep, 100%. And I think that's one of the things that I love about what you're doing, and I think what we're all really trying to do is just provide that knowledge and give people an opportunity to learn for themselves and then make an educated decision, because we all have to make that decision, but one thing I'm pretty sure of is if you think you're going to sit around and do the status quo that you've been doing that hasn't worked, and throw a couple of pills on top of it, and then that's going to then, solve your status quo problem, your chronic condition, it's not going to happen. Life doesn't work that way, and our bodies don't work that way.
That's right. Well, where can people find out more about you and the Chagit products?
So we have a website, easiest way to check it out, which is www.chagit.com, Chagit. And wait, let's see. How do I put this? Is that right? Chagit.com.
There it is.
And you'll learn more about the products and about what we do. And we're building that website on a daily basis. We'll also get you some links to the study that we've been involved in, and other studies regarding, chaga and the other amazing mushrooms and what they can do for you.
That's great. I'm a big fan. That's why I wanted to interview Tulsy, and someone on my team, Jody on my team, actually brought this to me, to my attention, and was, had researched it and taken your products, and I know connected with you, and was really excited about it, and brought it to me. And then I started taking the Chagit, several different products that you have, the regular Chagit extract, and then that mushroom blend, and just thought they were great. They're terrific. They taste good, easy to mix in with stuff, and so anyway, that's my backstory with this company. And yeah, well, thank you so much, Tulsy. I really appreciate your time and what you're doing. It's just so cool that that you just have not only found something great, but really invested. I mean, again, it took you 4 years to bring it to market. I mean, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of energy and effort and money to bring this thing to market. I know this was not an easy endeavor, so I want to applaud you in your tenacity, because a lot of people probably would have given up and just like, oh, this is too difficult. This is too hard. Let's just, take the easy way and just sell some Chagit powder or some chaga tea, chaga powder, I should say.
Yeah, I almost did. Yeah, there were times, but faith in the Lord got me through, and knowing that He wouldn't have put us in this position if we weren't meant to do what we're doing. And yeah, it took years, and I'm still to this day haven't made a dime off this company. It's only been over $500,000 the other direction of personal investment, but worth every second of it, because we've been able to be part of some incredible healing journeys, and I'm so blessed to have that be part of my life. I'm blessed to be part of your journey, and I hope to be part of the journeys of everyone listening. Thank you so much, Chris, for giving me the opportunity to share what we do. And, I look forward to hearing the great stories come back.
Well, I imagine you'll be interacting with a number of folks in my community. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. And it just reminds me of the proverb that says, a man makes plans, but the Lord directs his steps. And, he, you had other plans in life, and he has directed your steps in this direction. I had other plans for my life, and he directed both of our paths. And obviously this is what he does for all of us. He directs our steps. And it's cool to look back and see how our paths diverge, from our original life plan. And obviously he has brought us together, right? Our specific paths have converged, at this point in time. So anyway, really cool stuff. Well, thanks again. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll have links below the video. You can check out either on YouTube, or if you're watching on chrisbeatcancer.com or one of the other platforms that we post on. And you can click through and learn more about Chagit and check out those products and see if you love them. I think they're pretty terrific. So thanks for watching. Please share this video with people you care about, and help us spread the word about medicinal mushrooms and Chagit. And I'll see you on the next one.